This week, a lot of people wanted a Misogi type beat. That's what we're going to be doing today in this video. And he has more of an ambient trap type of style of music. So I'm going to start out, and this time around I wanted to start with the bass because I feel like his bass lines kind of direct the whole song. And if I'm focusing on chords, I'm not necessarily aware of what I'm doing to the bass and how it's going to turn out. So we want to have a bass line that's going to turn out well and then build off of that. It's going to be a little bit more difficult melody wise and chord wise. We're going to have to try a lot of stuff later, but well, let me turn down my volume on the monitors. But we're going to be able to figure that out later. And I want to try to find like a good 808. So this is from my 808 Essentials kit, and I like going through the wave files first and then getting a rack. And a rack is basically I added racks, which means you can play it like an instrument and it's already set up and tuned and everything. And even if you aren't in Ableton, you can have all these wave files and use them like any other 808. So I'm gonna try to find one real quick. I added some updated ones as well. So his are usually a little bit distorted. Oh, I wanted to use the Achilles, whatever you wanna pronounce it as, and it's literally the first one, but I honestly think that this fits the style. So I got the rack, as you can tell down here. Again, you have the wave file available, but the rack is basically an instrument version of it. And I can hold it for as long as I want to. So that's the cool part about it. And obviously there's gonna be a kick right now in front of it, so I like to put up the attack, which gets rid of the kick and makes it soft, and we can add our own kick later. But for this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mute these two and bring the bass 808 all the way. So now it's gonna be a little bit different than if I had it split up. So but when I do this and pull it all the way up and mute this one, we just get the original sample. So it's gonna sound a little bit softer, but that's something that you can do within the rack as well, is choose which samples you want to use. And some of them just have one, but this one was one that I saturated on each level, but I want to have it stay soft. Alright, anyways, let's go ahead and make a bass line. I don't know what scale I'm gonna do or whatever. That actually sounds pretty cool. I just randomly came up with that. You know what, we're just gonna run with that. You know, you don't have to overthink everything. I'm gonna release a video pretty soon about overthinking, and all the time we like to doubt certain ideas or think that there's something better out there. Just usually just roll with what you have. Alright, there we go. I like that. It's kind of cool. Perfect. Kind of slow right now, so what we can do is go up to about 140 or so, and then let's go ahead and align these. So I like to play it, but right now my settings aren't optimal for playing because I am recording at the same time, so I have to . 1 so I have to compromise my CPU. So I kind of made my thing line up and my idea line up. And something about Misogi's beats is that usually they're a little bit more chill. And you know, I don't know the exact tempo, but if you want a more ambient vibe, I guess you would want to go at a slower tempo. Now, personally, I would do 140. But in the end, that might not work out in terms of having slow kind of ambient feeling track. Now, last time on the Kaytranada beat, I did like a slower BPM, and you know, apparently he does 115 usually. But again, there's no wrong or right way to do something. Like I said, 75 BPM would be a good tempo for house, and in my head I was thinking something different. I was thinking of R&B with a house type of 4 on the floor pattern. But when I say certain things, sometimes like I may use the wrong word or whatever. Usually I have an idea in my head when I'm gonna do something, like, and it's not necessarily something that you can really put in words, so I just use the best closest term. So yeah, I seen you talking shit on Reddit, seen some of you guys, and but you know, it really doesn't really matter what kind of rules that you want to follow or not, as long as the end product sounds good. But yeah, let's go ahead and get like some sort of chord sound, any type of chord sound. I'm not sure exactly what I want to go with yet. It has to be something ambient, so we're gonna go into some kind of synth plugin. Let's get actually a pluck going. We're gonna like literally go with the chords completely last, and in Serum I have the presets as usual. Like, I'm just gonna try some of these, and if they sound good, then we're using them. Alright, I'm just gonna try to find. Okay, that sounds nice. It really fits that ambient kind of vibe, so we're probably gonna do something with that. I'm gonna think of a quick idea and then come back. And yeah, all right, nice idea. Hopefully I don't mess up. Let's go ahead and just try to record it real quick. And of course I mess up first try. All right. Oh my god. Anyways, we could just copy what we did the first kind of. Okay, let's just record right here. Man, of course I would mess up. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and record this perfectly how I want it and fix it, and then I'll be right back, and we're gonna get some chords down. It's gonna be awesome. So here's the idea that I had with the melody, and it's two different ideas, and it kind of is not arranged yet, so it's gonna switch from one to the other. But this is the first part and this is the second part, so let's go ahead and play it. So that's kind of the melody. Now the chords are next, and this may or may not be the hardest part. So now I'm kind of tempted to, I know I'm going to use Silent to design the chords, but we can really just start by using just a basic plugin to hear out each of the tones of the notes better and make the chord progression just using that, and then we'll switch out the instrument later. So always start with the idea. Don't get caught up between sound design and composition at the same time, because that's just gonna slow your whole process down. Alright, I'm just gonna draw in the notes that I'm hearing, that I'm or the chords that I'm hearing. So I like this one right here. There's no real theory behind this. I mean, there is, but at this point it just comes a little bit more naturally to me, and I can just really play what I think would sound good. But theory definitely does help, because you literally know kind of the names that you for each chord, and you know what you want to hear, like, and you know how to label it and what notes consist of that chord, or what the chord consists of. Damn, I can't even speak. See, the problem is the reason why I sometimes sound retarded is because I can't focus between producing and talking, but I still try to do it because hopefully that helps you guys, you know. Having a retarded commentary is better than no commentary, you know. Kind of repetitive, but it's okay. This is trap, so what did you expect, dummy? No. Anyways, let's go ahead and do something like this. So I just copied this chord and hit shift and down, and it transposed it down an octave. We can get really creative with that. So it kind of adds that emphasis. It's just that it adds that hard tone right before the chord. So usually just keep the same rhythm, the same chords at the same spots. Don't change the spots of the main chords, but add in between stuff, because the fundamental part is going to stay the same no matter what, or else it stops working if you go too crazy. And we can add a last chord right here. Oh, that's a beautiful chord. Oh my goodness, I like that one. I've just been practicing just playing different notes and different scales, different chords, just mixing it up, and I kind of have developed a tendency to hit certain combinations of notes, and that's how I come up with some of these ideas a little bit more quickly, just by playing it. That's beautiful, I like it. Something's off with that chord though, I feel. Maybe it's this one. Yeah. And how I know that is because this chord right here is basically the same as this one. So when you notice this one, there's an A sharp, a C sharp, and an F. So when I saw the C, I knew it was kind of out of place because C is not the same as C sharp. So I just knew to move that up to get the right tone. So there we go, we have our chords just like that. But again, I said I was going to use silent to get a synthesizer or synthesized sound. I'm gonna go with like, okay, oops, there's a new version. I don't wish to download it right now though. Let me see. We wanna clear the preset. And I was thinking we could get a square wave. Do they call it a square wave in here? They call it a pulse. And it has that characteristic sound. And I hear squares, sine waves, triangles a lot in Misogi's type of sounds. And when you learn sound design, you'll just learn to memorize the sound of each of the waves. So notice the shape of a square wave right here. It's kind of this boxy shape. Now sine wave is more smooth, so it'll have that same tone, but it'll just be smoothed out. And a triangle is going to be in between a sine and a square, so it's going to be more aggressive than a sine wave. It's going to have that same tone, but it's going to have a little bit of the characteristic sound of a square and a sine wave at the same time. And then again, the square or the pulse is going to be completely distorted. Not distorted, but completely, you know, I don't know the exact terminology, but it's going to be have more harmonic qualities to it, I guess, like a lot more aggressive sounding. And I want to have some vibrato. I'm not completely familiar with silent yet. I haven't used it that much. I occasionally use it. Alright, I'm gonna detune these voices. So I turned up the voices. Alright, we're gonna turn the stereo down to about the middle. And I'm gonna turn up the attack. We're not gonna have these chords in the drop, but I just want to be able, or maybe, I'm not sure yet, but I'm just making the sound. Let's turn off this plug. And I'm gonna have this envelope. Okay, wait, I'm gonna have the LFO to the pitch. Is that even working? So pitch is really cool. You can do some creative stuff like that. Like we could actually be very specific and create some very creative stuff with that. Alright, so now it's has a little bit of vibrato. Over time, when you add different characteristics to a sound, all these little qualities are going to add up and create a very interesting sound. So right now the vibrato is very subtle, but all these subtle changes that we make to a sound creates a really nice specific end product that has that sounds attractive to the ear. It's a little bit too much vibrato. It makes it sound more natural, more organic than just a straight square wave. It sounds too electronic. But when you add imperfections, things start sounding better. So I'm gonna try different things. We can do arpeggiation or something with a different sound. I'm not sure I'm gonna use a chorus for this. I was thinking definitely a filter. To cut off some of that high end. Alright, I'm gonna take a break, think about this a little bit. I'm not gonna overthink it, because like I said, you don't want to overthink stuff, but I'm gonna see if it sounds like Misogi. So with these beat making videos, I do have to think a little bit more, because I'm literally trying to copy a certain style. And I always say don't overthink, because you end up copying styles that you've already heard when you try to think stuff. Think everything through. Like, a lot of this is just going for stuff and just putting it down how you hear it. Don't delete it because it's not complicated enough, or it's not good enough. Like, you just put down ideas. So if this was my own song, maybe I would keep going, but I have to frequently take thinking breaks and listen to some of the music, because I need to make it a certain way. But I usually discourage it for creative kind of stuff, for like SoundCloud or whatever. Just be yourself, just work and just keep going forward. But I need to kind of think. I added some drums to my drum rack, and a drum rack is basically just a sampler. If you're not familiar with Ableton, and you can have it be like a machine and have, or a machine or an MPC, and have each of those 16 slots filled, and you can have, I think it's up to 8 different layers of this, and basically you can use it like an instrument. So I chose 2 different sounds from my premium trap essentials, and again, Misogi has a trap kind of style, so trap drums, I could easily just find those within my kit. So definitely check that out if you are particularly in kind of a lack of trap sounds or looking for them. There's a lot of stuff in this, especially snares and hats and claps and all that, kicks especially as well. So I kind of found a kick that fits his style, something like that, and a snare. Now the kick, I want to turn up the volume on it a little bit. So what you'll notice about his songs though is that usually the kick is not so loud that it's clipping. Well, not clipping, but it really depends on the song, but usually it's a very balanced volume in his mixes. And I'll get into mixing a little bit later when we come to that. I'll have to try different things. Let's call this 808. But we have this kind of 808 part right here. Now I know some of you guys may be looking into different styles or wanted a different style, so I'm gonna go from an 808 to a saw kind of OVO bass, like a Bryson Tiller type bass. You'll know what I'm talking about when I get to that part, but right now this is what we have in terms of trap. So we have this 808 pattern, obviously trappy. Now this is also going to be trap, but I'm going to transition into a different part. And in my Lush pack, my kit for Serum, wait, let me alright, in my Lush kit for Serum, I have the exact type of bass that we would need for this sound, and I have an OVO one and a Tiller one. I prefer this one for his style. It sounds a lot more reasonable and more mellow. The other one sounds more aggressive. Either one can really work, and you'll hear this a lot in his songs. But I'm gonna do a song where we have both the 808 and the and this kind of a bass, because people may be expecting different things. That's why your idea of or somebody's idea of a Misogi beat could be different from mine. So I'll try to have a little bit of variety so that we can hit all kinds of styles at once. Now the chords, I can work on that for a little bit longer, but at this point we want to get into the hi-hats. So again, I'm just gonna go into the Premium Trap Essentials, and we're gonna look for a more clicky hi-hat, like something more like that. I guess we could get that. That one's a little bit too short. That one kind of works for this style. But I guess we'll just use this one. Alright, so let's go back into the 808 part that we had, and we're just gonna get a pattern. I want some very aggressive hi-hats. So a really cool idea I had right now, and again, this is kind of my own influence, and you know, sometimes you just can't logically think your way out of certain situations. You just gotta use your own intuition. And a lot of people confuse, I'm not gonna go on a rant, but a lot of people confuse logic and creativity, but they're completely different sides of your brain, physically and just metaphorically. Like, logic and creativity are two different things. So when you find yourself overthinking and not moving forward, trying to think of what would sound perfect, you just want that professional, just perfect, amazing song, just try to get out of that, snap out of it, just add whatever you can, anything that would sound good, and then your creativity will start to take off when you stop judging your ideas or trying to get the perfect kind of outcome. A lot of the best songs, actually the majority, come from inspiration and creativity. So, but I have this saw right here. Let me turn on my volume again. All right. It's like a second layer. So we'll have something like that, and let's line it up exactly. Actually, it's alright when it's a little bit off. It sounds a little bit organic. Okay, wait, what? Alright, so here's what I had in mind. I was gonna turn this up 7 so that we get a detuned sound. Turn down the detune, or the detune amount, just the perfect amount of kind of detunedness, and then blend it up perfectly, and then have a filter. And it's just gonna add, okay, and I'm gonna turn up the drive and put it on 18. Just gonna add that ambience to it when we automate that. So you saw what I was doing with the knob. I was manually moving it up and down. We can do this two different ways. We can either automate it. So if you see that little dotted line, we could actually make our own line in Ableton, and I like how the automation is in Ableton. You can literally just see each of the settings just right there when you tweak it. So we can either automate it manually, or we can have an envelope which will do it for us, but the envelope may take a little bit more tweaking. And we may not want it. So that's actually pretty nice. And we don't have to manually do all the tedious work. So that's what envelopes do. They control any kind of parameter. And we can also have this, we can have an LFO on the panning, and I'm gonna change it to 1/2. And let me try to figure this out. I want it to switch sides each time. So we want it to start in the center. Okay, we're gonna go with 1/4. Or maybe 1. Yeah, I'm gonna have something like that. And now we can have it switch sides. So the LFO actually acts like an envelope as well. And this is how far it's gonna go to the right, or actually to the left, and this is how far it's gonna go to the right. Sorry, this is gonna direct how far it is. So each of the edges, kind of the boundaries, are the boundaries of our panning right here. Or what we can do is, okay, no, let's just, what I was gonna say is that we can put it all the way up and then control that right here. I want it to be kind of subtle, not too much. So kind of a nice little effect to have. But for a dark sound, you'll get that kind of a feeling. Now I feel like this is being delayed too much. So what we can go ahead and do is, if it's too delayed, is that we can actually change that right here. We can make it early. So right here, this is gonna delay a whole track by a certain amount of milliseconds. And what would be cool is if it would actually like show the shift, but you kind of have to estimate. Like it would be cool if the track started getting shifted like physically, but we can just try to estimate the amount of milliseconds and just listen. Too much. So we have this little pattern right here with the saw pad, and that's cool and everything. If we can even add it to the second part right here. It's just something we can add in the drop, and it's gonna be more of a background sound. And we're missing a main lead, so we can add some kind of vocals, but I would have to sing, and God knows that would be terrible. So we're just gonna add some sort of lead. And I didn't go over it, but I changed the pluck to a different sound. I just felt like it would be better if it was more of a sine kind of type of sound, sine or square. So instead of having this ice keys, I just went to the next one, which I thought actually sounded pretty okay. And again, inside my Lush serum kit, my serum pack, it has, I think, 54 presets. So check that out on seribeats.com if you liked some of these sounds. But yeah, we just need, at this point, we just need a lead or something just really creative that's gonna set this song apart. We don't want something too basic. We're probably gonna do something that's gonna take a little bit more manual kind of tweaks and pitch edits and stuff just to make it interesting, or that's what I'm gonna do at least, because we don't want a generic song. So, and that's really easy to do in trap, is when you're just making a song, it's easy to make it sound generic. So we want to do something a little bit more creative. So I'm gonna come back in a second when I have an idea. Alright, so I've added a few other ideas. Haven't done too much to the drums yet. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. But right now I added this minimal pluck kind of, and I kind of played in this melody at the end right here, and then the other melody I played in as well, but I can't exactly recall how it was played or anything, but you guys are gonna hear it. And I think we went over everything else that I added already, but I added this kind of little instrument right here, and it's kind of a nice little addition. So it's gonna play, it's gonna be right into the drop, but we're just gonna go ahead and play this. So it has a nice little feeling to it, like minimal feeling, and to be honest, it's a little bit delayed because I did play it in, and as usual we're gonna have to fix that, but I kind of like the humanized feel of it. So when we're gonna fix it later, we'll try to keep it at least a little bit kind of humanized and delayed, because it sounds pretty cool how it is. The notes kind of create a different timbre when they kind of overlap like that. They're plucky and they make these little rolls when they're a little bit delayed. But what I wanted to do now is get into like this really creative process, and I almost didn't want to record this right now because, you know, I don't like to make you guys sit through like experimentation and all that, but it's part of producing. So if this does take too long, then I'll cut forward. But what I was thinking is I wanted to add like a more aggressive chord. Like I wanted to actually we could use these chords right here, I think. We'd have to change the sound. Wait, let me duplicate this track right here and delete this. But I wanted to create an aggressive chord. It's gonna definitely have to be more aggressive than that. Sounds really cool. But we're gonna try some different waveforms. And again, I haven't done anything yet off camera with this sound, so it's all gonna be off the top of my head. And what I was thinking is that we could add these chords, but we can add it to that instrument. Oh yeah, and by the way, I changed some of these chords to fit the swell that we had, this little pad that kind of swells. I changed the chords that we originally had just a little bit so that they would fit that new pattern. So let's go ahead and solo both of them. So they kind of work now. A little bit different sounding, but definitely made a huge difference. So I was thinking, yeah, something like that. I want to get rid of this reverb. Maybe have chorus instead. And what I wanted to do is like freeze this and hold Alt and then drag this down, and it's gonna make a copy, and it's gonna be in audio form. And I'm just gonna mute this channel. And what I wanted to do is play around with these chords a little bit. I'm gonna get into complex mode, which is gonna allow us to play with the pitch, and we could really do some really cool stuff with this. And we can visually see the waveform now, which is nice. Do some cool stuff like that. But I was thinking about having it be kind of a downwards pitch at the end of each chord. And then bring it back up like that or something. Just something creative. You can't limit yourself. And if it doesn't work, or if this takes too long, I'm just gonna skip forward. But it should be decent when we get it right. Let's add the 808 over this. So let's low cut this, like cut some of the low end. I don't really like that sound for this part, so I'm gonna get the 808 that we had. So kind of creative. It sounds pretty cool actually. What I was thinking about doing is also, wait, let me see this. Also chopping up the 808s to have a different rhythm. Let's have it like pitched down or something with the 808, because you'll actually hear that a lot in his songs, in Misogi type songs. And okay, so I turned up the glide time to about 230. I'm gonna turn up to 250, and now it should kind of glide down. And I'm also gonna turn on the release so that, okay, it's all the way down, so it's gonna cut off as soon as we end the notes. Let me shorten this one. And honestly, I might change this sound that we have and redo the audio, like just change the actual sound until I get it right, and then I'm gonna be right back and we'll see what we have. So what I'm gonna do at this point, actually what I've done, I'm just gonna go over what I did. I went ahead and arranged this a little bit, added some chords down here, like the same chords but extended, and I added it in a lounge lizard. Kind of get a little bit of chorus on there, and there's the bass that we had. Added an extra chord right there, this one right here. But basically, yeah, there's a lot of different changes, but there's a very abrupt kind of drop right here when the 808 comes in. So I wanted to go ahead and smooth that out, maybe add some transition sounds or something, and also work on the drums themselves, because right now we just have a simple pattern. So I just wanted to start with the hi-hat, and how I would do that is I would go into the drum rack, and instead of just using a single sample in the drum rack, I want to be able to pitch it up and down. So again, this hi-hat was from Premium Trap Essentials, so I just found that inside the Finder by doing show in Finder. But what we can do once we have it in a sampler is that we can have it be pitched downwards, however we want to. We can roll it like a normal hat, but we also have the choice of being able to pitch it and stuff without having to play with automating a single line. Like, we can just literally change the notes around. But yeah, so what I can do is just get rid of our pattern that we have right here, and yeah, same thing with the open hi-hat. We can also have it change pitch, so I'm also gonna do that. So I'm starting a new track, and then I'm gonna get the open hi-hat that we have right here, and we're gonna do show in browser, and then we're gonna double click that, and it's gonna be a sample now. So that's what we're gonna do with the drums. I'm also gonna add an alternate snare, and in the Trap Essentials kit there's I hear a lot of Misogi snares, and I know that I have them inside this kit. So like for example, I think it's not the drill snare, it's the Chicago snare. There we go. We can double click that and open it in a new MIDI track, and now we have a sample that can be pitched. So like I said before, we have kind of this abrupt kind of transition to the drop, so it's really sudden. Alright, actually when I got rid of the hats it wasn't so sudden, but what I wanted to do is make it even smoother. So when you want to transition between different parts, they don't have to be identical, but you need to consider adding elements from each side of the line. So if this is our line right here, our transition line that we're crossing, we want to add elements from both parts on each side of the line to create a smooth transition. So what I was thinking is that we could get this 808 right here, do what we did earlier. We can freeze this track, and we can take this 808, hit Alt and drag it right here, and unfreeze, and right here we have the sample. And I'm gonna change it to complex mode, and I'm actually gonna reverse this. Wait. Let me try to extend it as far as it can go. Alright, like that. And then I'm going to hit Command J. So that's a single sample. And I want to try to stretch it out a little bit. So with Ableton, as you can tell, I can stretch it, and right here it shows us the marker, kind of like it lines it up for us. So stretch it out to that point, and now it's gonna be a full half bar. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to reverse it, and we're gonna get in complex mode, and we're gonna get fades. We're gonna go like this, and I'm gonna get the transposition and pitch it upwards to 12. So that's an octave. And we could try different octaves for this. Can even have it go from high to low. But you know what? I'm just gonna keep it at normal. Do something like that. Alright, something like that, and fade out the end a little bit. So it kind of leads into that drop a little bit more. And I'm going to do this with different parts as well. So right here we have this really awesome pad that I made. I actually layered two different sounds. So this is one layer, very quiet and subtle, and this is another layer, the layer that we were working on earlier. And what I want to do is get this right here and get it out here, and let's get a reverb. And there's actually a preset for us. I think it's called long tail, if I can find it. Long tail right there. And I'm gonna turn it up to 100%. Get rid of the high cut because I want it to have that frequency. This is like a filter right here, so I'm just gonna turn that off. And I'm going to freeze this track. And now we get this really long tail. And these dotted lines right here kind of represent the reverb that we have on there. And I hit Alt and drag as usual. Now I can unfreeze this and delete the reverb. And notice how I got the first chord, like the first part. And that's because we're gonna get this tail right here and we're gonna make it we're gonna make it lead into the drop, or into this second part right here, like this, like that. So we can even have it kind of cross over a little bit and crossfade into it. So just a good strategy. And I like to high pass. I like to high pass, which is also low cut. And it just builds that tension, and then the full sound comes in. And that's gonna give us kind of a warning or a indicator that that sound is gonna give the listener an indication that a new part is coming in when you have those reverse tails and stuff. But again, like I said, when you're crossing into a transition, you want to have, or try to have, elements of both sides of the transition line on each side. So right here, we're bringing, by having this tail, we're bringing in this pad to the other side, and it's kind of making everything transition more smoothly than if we didn't have it. So if I turn this off, it's kind of sudden, but when we have this, it's going to be less sudden of a change. And of course, we're going to have to perfect it a little bit. Maybe lower the volume a little bit, or get a part of the tail that's a little bit quieter and actually move the volume up. But I don't know, it's gonna take a little bit of work until we get it just right. But you guys kind of get the point. And you can do that with really any type of instrument. I'm even gonna do it with this one right here. And like I said, Misogi's type of style has a lot of ambience in it, a lot of reverb, so this kind of technique works perfectly, even for vocals. This is very commonly used on vocals, and this will work for this style, or really any style. Really, there's no rules to any genre. I see people want to conform to a certain group of rules that they think exist. Just from listening to a bunch of songs, they think you got to follow those rules, but really it's about being creative. And this kind of technique can be used just in so many ways. I don't want to say it's only for this style. Yeah, I'm going off on a tangent right now. So we have this chord right here. And we're gonna have it, I forgot to do something. So it's important when you do this technique, it's important to have the dry and wet knob all the way. Well, I mean, not necessarily, but it gives you the full reverb, so it's better for this particular case that I'm doing it in. now we have the lead into the last kind of part with these chords. Let's show the fades again. We don't need too much fading because it's naturally doing that with the reverb. We don't want to diminish the audio too much, but a little bit at the end is going to be nice. There we go. That's beautiful. All right, so that's kind of a transition technique that you can do. Just something something interesting that you can do to spice up your track, especially if you're going for a more ambient vibe. So yeah, I'm gonna come right back when I have some more drums selected for when we're doing the drums. And yeah, so at this point I'm gonna work on the drums a little bit. So we're gonna start off with the snare that we have currently. And let me turn on my volume, it's gonna bleed through. So this right here, and it has a tail, so I want to cut that out. And again, this is from my Premium Trap Essentials kit, if you're wondering where the sounds are from and where you can get this. I'm pretty sure I've heard this in basically every kind of trap producer's song. And so basically what we did is we cut off that long tail. It's very subtle, but it just kind of adds some muddiness to the mix overall. Like anything that you don't need, that's not adding to the sound really, or even if it's like subtly adding to the sound and it sounds better as a sample, but it's not able to be heard in the song, you just want to cut it out anyways. Like that tail is not gonna be heard in the song, and this sounds a lot more to the point and perfect and nice and sharp sounding. And as you can tell, I pitched it down a little bit. So this is the original sample, and I went down to just to get it darker, feeling a little bit darker. And I mean, the easiest part for me is gonna be the open hi-hat. And with the sampler, we can drag out the sample as long as we want to, so we can have a little tiny little cut like that. But we're gonna go with long ones. I'm gonna have it every 4 bars, and then right here at this second part, I'm gonna have it every single bar. And it's a little bit loud right now, so I'm gonna turn it down to -16. Let's try to get creative with this. Uh-oh. Do something like that. Alright, so that's our hi-hat pattern, or open hi-hat pattern. Now we're gonna go with the closed ones. And for that, we can just literally think of a rhythm off the top of our heads, like right as we listen to this. Something simple like that. I do that pattern a lot, so can do something like that, or we can have it be either way. Let's just go with the simpler one. No, let's go like this. And for this style, I don't want to go straight hi-hats like on each one. I want it to be kind of spread out a little bit. And if this takes too long, we're just gonna, here, I'm gonna put it on loop mode. We're just gonna skip forward if it takes too long. but I want to solo a few instruments because I don't want to get this to get too old. And often when you sample something or loop something for a really long time, it's going to start sounding bad. So I want to prevent that and just loop a certain part with a few instruments. Alright, perfect. We have a basic pattern. Now we want to go ahead and add some low ones here. Too close. I'll have to think about this a little bit. You guys kind of get the point. You just gotta hear it in your head and just mess around, experiment and stuff. I added a few drums, such as this right here, and it's just a sample that I have. It's one of my favorite samples to use, or it's one of my favorite samples that I kind of saved, and I felt like this would be a good kind of sound to have, kind of mixed in with the hi-hats. And as you can tell, I also faded in the hi-hats with the EQ, and really that's just to create a more smooth transition. You always want to fade stuff and make it as smooth as possible. And like I said, there's like I said in a previous video, there's all different skills that come together when it comes to production. So there's the actual composition, and then there's the arrangement, and transitioning is like its own skill. So sometimes you may have trouble arranging full songs, so just put in practice. And again, there's different techniques that you can do to transition and stuff, and you can have completely different parts and make them fit together really well when you get good at transitioning. But other than that, I did a few changes to the 808. So as you can tell, there's some glides and stuff as usual, but on the second part I make it into an upwards glide, so it starts down here and it goes up, versus the first part where it just starts up high and comes down. You kind of have to hear to understand what I'm saying. Oops. Well, let me turn on my volume. And then this is the other part. So it's kind of just flipped, I guess. Like the note starts lower in the second time around. And then I added trap rolls with the Chicago snare, again for my premium Trap Essentials kit. And you're gonna hear it sounds much better in context, obviously. But I'm gonna go ahead and mix this, probably off camera, because really mixing is just not very visually entertaining, and it's just very repetitive. So I'm just gonna do that and then play the final product. And again, if you enjoyed, then go ahead and leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.